Good morning, video number 2. Now I get into the juicy details of why we're making this video. We're making this video because February of 2016 or so, might be wrong on the date, I have had 8 strokes, as you know, from various individuals trying to kill me to stop me from bringing this information to you. At any rate, I was contacted that Wednesday morning, 7:30ish, by an individual who flashed a message on my screen. Please call this number ASAP right away. All functions on my computer were frozen and completely inoperable. I said, oh my gosh, I have a document that I have to get out in the next hour and a half. I don't have time for this. So I used a series of quick little maneuvers to reprogram the computer and kick that individual off my computer. Now, this didn't come as a complete surprise because for the last 15 years, every time I do 200 hours worth of blog work on Facebook, writing sermons for churches in South America, 568 churches. As soon as my work would collect to the point where I had done 200 hours worth of work, it would erase. Gone. Stolen. Vanished from my computer. Vanished from the Facebook page. Consistently. Time and time and time again. And as I'm writing messages, which was basically verses from heart for these South American churches, I'm using 3 computers because one would seize up and become inoperable, and I'd have to move to the next one, and then it would seize up, and then I'd have to move to the next one, and it would seize up, and I'd have to rotate between these 3 computers just to write some simple little messages to South American churches, which, by the way, became about almost impossible, like 98% worth, around 2008. I wonder why that's a mysterious year. And we heard just before the healthcare hearings to the South American reporters, why are you passing around that alert letter? To punish you all for doing this, you're not getting into the healthcare hearings. And that little person turned and showed his back to the audience, walked in the door and slammed it. And 23 reporters were left standing outside in the dust, not invited to listen in on the healthcare hearings because they passed around 8 pages of verses that I sent to these 568 little churches. It was just, a word of encouragement and how to make sure that when bad times come along, your family will turn to God. Like, that was such a horrible message. That's when the massive trouble on the computer stuff happened. And in the last couple of days, I've gone in and looked at 2 documents, one which had all 12 of the initial books in every language, and some documentary and study things on, like, the Book of Revelations completely explained, and a book about cats, yeah, which actually are true stories about a lot of very crazy things going on in the world, but it's written by the cat, from the cat's perspective, as he's troopsing around the world and looking at things that are happening. So it's not a child's book. All of the information regarding those 5 books and the 6 other languages of the initial 12 disappeared. That document has had all of those sections deleted. As does another document, which I like to call Dear G-Man, which began on the day when the agent, we don't know what agency he's from, initially put that message on my screen saying, please contact this number right away. I kicked him off. I continued my work for the next week. The reason why I explained all the Facebook things is because those next 2 weeks, while I continued to work on work that was important and urgent to me, I kept getting little glitches and things where something would turn on and off right in front of me, where a page would disappear and then come back, and hard to explain, but a lot of glitches that can only be done by somebody who's in intel and watching on your computer and trying to jab you in the side to say, hello, we asked you to call us, please call us. So after 2 weeks of such annoying nudges, I finally got another message flashed across the screen. Please call this number right away. So I called, and the gentleman who identified himself as Guy, which is obviously an agency nickname, opened my computer and showed me a page that looked like an EKG. You know, colored lines on a black background, going up and down and dropping and going across and dropping again, which filled my entire screen. Now, it was explained to me that the CIA had been reading my book and absolutely loved it. He showed me those 12 lines, which took about half of the page exactly. And then the 12 first IP addresses, phone numbers, and locations and countries as listed on the right side were supposedly Putin himself hacking my computer. And as they showed, here's you writing, here's us watching, here's Russia hacking and watching, and where the lines are parallel and all together, that's both of us watching every keystroke as you're typing it. And so we love this book. And Russia loves this book. You know, Putin is just like bragging on, oh, this is so awesome. But there's this other book that we don't want Putin to find because of some of your discoveries that are talked about or analyzed in this book. Voila! Conspiracy Series, the new land fraud scheme of the 1%. It's written as a screenplay format with the exact wording of all the individuals and how they perpetrated this crime against me and 20,000 other individuals in Wisconsin. Now, that was just the testing ground, because we know how dumb and ignorant those farmer people are. Really? They have to be mechanics, engineers, experts in nearly every field, a regular one-man show. But he went there because he figured they'd be more ignorant. And he wanted to make sure that my property, the prime commercial property in all of Wisconsin, where the intersection of the north-south, Highway 53, and all the 94, 00, 24, 29, all intersected. You know, kind of like an old Dr. Seuss story about the north and south going zack. That was my farm. The prime commercial spot, the little jewel that he wanted. And he also sent me emails saying that if he couldn't steal that property from me, he had another property picked out, which actually was in the northern half of my property that was seized by the state in eminent domain. So, the property gets seized by eminent domain, and the state promised that no property of mine would ever, in eternity, ever be taken again because of my giving up that land to the state for pennies on what it was worth, even though it was worth $250,000 a quarter of an acre. They paid $85,000 only for 5 acres, almost 6, only because there was a $75,000 mortgage on it, and they figured, she's just a woman. Let's pay off this little mortgage and give her $10,000 in shopping money, and she'll be happy. Talk about misogynist. Well, we got rid of that little deal, and all of a sudden I'm getting these very threatening text messages from David Wogernies Wasserman Schultz, whose name really is Wogernies, or rather was Wasserman, but he changed it to Wogernies to hide his affiliation to Wasserman Schultz, our little DNC chair, and he said, by the way, we also have a Schultz in the newscasting system in case we need some propaganda to cover our tracks on what we're doing. We've got a guy already slated in the news media with her marrying into the Schultz family. So there you go. David H. Wogernies is actually Wasserman Schultz's brother, I guess, and which stole my farm and 20,000 others. Now, this is one little item of interest to you. there's a gentleman in Eau Claire that had a large, very just icy clean manufacturing operation, okay? $12.5 million building. And he was offered a loan. Oh, you're expanding. You're such a hard worker. We want to give you a loan too. And so he took the loan. And oh my God, he spent it fixing up his facility. And a couple of weeks after that, after it was made, a couple of weeks, they went to him and said, oh my God, we just decided that our internal appraiser has decided that your property value just kind of went down like a lot in 2 weeks. And so we're seizing your entire facility. He wasn't behind a payment. It wasn't the same independent appraiser that made the evaluation that got him the loan, but because the value went down in a couple of weeks, they said they ceased his entire operation. Now, the same thing happened on my one facility. As soon as I got the loan, they said, oh my gosh, we just reevaluated your credit criteria, even though I've never been late on a single payment, never been behind a day on anything ever, had no loan balances other than their balance, and I was actually paid $28,000 ahead on a $53,000 balance, had always paid early, had always paid $1,000 or so extra per payment, never had one single late. They ended up seizing 12 farm properties from me because one of the properties, I was making $50 payments on that year's taxes only, one out of the 12, under complete authority, permission of the county tax collector, and with the oversight of both my own attorney and the bank's attorney, that this was okay and proper to do. And I continued those payments for 2 years, almost getting that one property fully caught up, and all of a sudden, I go to South America on a missionary trip, and I come home a couple of weeks later, and there's somebody else living in my house. No notice, no authority, no declarations, no service, no court, no trial, nothing. This other person is living in my house. I get served a notice that says you have to remove your belongings within 10 days, and it was already 7 days into it, by this date, or we keep them as abandoned, because we don't know why you abandoned this house. I mean, you went to South America a couple weeks, that means you abandoned it, so we just decided to take the house. You know, every time we came home from the grocery store, there was a note inside of our house saying, oops, we came by and you weren't home, so we decided you abandoned the house. Yeah, there's a roast in the oven, and we abandoned the house, and we were at the corner store getting milk, we abandoned the house, right. But all the ceiling tiles in the house were chopped open. We're talking asbestos. Stuff was flying all over in the air. They said that they had gone into our well when we were gone the one day and poured chemicals into it to analyze it. Wouldn't tell us what chemicals. Had gone upstairs and into some private cabinets and stolen old tax returns of my husband. This is called constructive eviction. And we could go to the store for an hour, the close store, or a couple hours, the further store, and come home, and all of our locks would be changed. And we'd have to wait until well after dark till one of their reps came and gave us, you know, a broken window or something so we could get back in. Absolutely insane, the things that they were doing to us. They ground up our roads, which were made with beautiful, thick, foot-deep limestone, soft, comfortable, powdery. We could walk around in our bare feet outside and go out and check the different fields. Ground it all up, and threw the calcium out into the main crop fields. Took down and stole our powder-coated giant corrals that I had built. We spent 90 days, 12 hours a day, with 2 electric saws going, cutting down little saplings in an area to create a little park where we could barbecue and sit and relax and swing and watch the cows out in the field. And they just obliterated everything. They took down 5-strand electric and barb fences, very complicated setup so that we could take down gates and it would not interrupt the electricity in the other sections. And they ran through it with trucks. And then, a month or two later, as we're having trouble keeping the cows in, they put 1 or 2 strands back up instead of a 5-strand electric and barb fence that was secure to keep our animals safe and out of the streets. We went to the store once for half an hour just to grab some milk for dinner and came home, and our baby cows were taken out of a barn, out of a fence, out of a second fence, into his yard fence, into his bull area fence, into where the cows were in the back. So the baby cows helped themselves through 5 fences, which were all taken down, the animals let in, and then put back up, and yet our little babies are standing out in the middle of a bull field about to be killed. And we went running out into the middle of them trying to save these cute little babies that were in danger. So we were ultimately seriously harassed in every single detail. I would go to the bank 3 days a week before or after picking up my little 9-year-old from school and sit down and chat with my then I thought best friend, Heather Maidment, about giving her some place to stay while she took her daughter for necessary ear replacement surgery in California, and she was going to stay with us, and I was going into there and talking with her and having lunch with her 3 days a week. And all of a sudden, when the court hearing popped around, we get this little affidavit stuck in there that says, we had no idea where to find these people. Yeah, I live 1 mile from the bank, and I'm having lunch there 3 times a week, but they have no idea where to find me. Right. And they never applied to a judge for, putting it in paper in lieu of personal service. And we got notice of these actions because we flew back to our California place, and a little lady called us who thankfully read the death announcements every day in the newspaper, and she saw where there was a half a sentence and recognized that it was our property and that it was going to get stolen and taken over and someone else moved in the day before Christmas. So here we would have flown back in time for the holidays, and somebody else would be in our house, and we'd be standing in the, blizzardy 20 degree below zero snow. And that's how we discovered all this. And our item went through hearing, and we were looking for anything that would be an announcement on an illegal sale that they had held. And the lady at the newspaper all of a sudden said, I found this weird thing. And it's like half of the first line of a legal description, doesn't have the regular, real, normal postal address, doesn't have the person's names, and it's this same guy. And we matched it up with our legal description that we had in our hand and discovered that it was our house, a second farm, that was also set to be stolen. And it said that they were going to go to court. It was just an announcement, like there was a summons and complaint filed. And they actually ended up taking the whole property. This was discovered on a Saturday, bought and paid for the night before, Friday, ran the first time that morning, and by the immediate Wednesday following, the entire property was seized, was taken. There were 6 individuals that were very interested in acquiring our property, and which ran down for the court sale at the courthouse. Our answers to the summons and complaint, which were filed by a legal third entity at the courthouse, at the bank, at all attorneys, parties involved, immediately first thing on Monday morning, was initially just simply rejected. And all the copies were given back to us, stamped as received. When I called the courthouse and I said, how serious are you about even filing these answers to the summons and complaint when you gave me back all of the copies? You didn't save one to file. You didn't save one for the judge. And so that legal service process person had to be sent back to the courthouse that same morning. So he was back there twice before 10 a.m., reserved them again, left the copy with them that was theirs, and 2 days later, on Wednesday morning, our property was gone. When these other 6 individuals showed up at the courthouse for this sale. They were told, for legal reasons, we've had a little problem here, a little snitch here, we're going to have to postpone this sale. So, if you want to hear what happened on the sale and who was involved in those 6 persons, please be sure to tune back in and listen to video number 3 on this series, as I'll type the rest of it right now. Again, this is Ellie Blair White, and I'm at buffalostudy@yahoo.com or paypal.me/buffalostudy@yahoo.com. Please turn in and hear the very important end of this situation. Thank you.